And then Trent said, "Gotcha." Jerry White, what's up?
You know, favorite day of the week. No offense to your sermons. That's a good day.
I'm not
too,
taking
Pastor.
you. That's I've been done with for 30 years. You're not impressed anymore. So
But anytime we get to hang out with the old ball coach, look at high school football, or who knows what we'll talk about sports wise. Coach Steve Smith, welcome, my friend.
Glad to be here, as always.
I'm saying some of these pre-show conversations are good shows.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that's good stuff, and
A lot of opinions.
Yeah.
there's a lot of
You know what they
opinions,
say about opinions, right?
yes, sir.
Everybody's got them. Some of them stink.
but yours is more of an educated opinion than most on the topic,
Well,
right?
I'm not real diverse, so there's not a whole lot. There's not a wide range of topics I know a lot about. So I talk a lot about the things I think I do know something about. Maybe.
Well, your opinion is well regarded
Well, thank you.
in the industry for sure. Hey, would you want to talk a little high school playoff football?
Oh yeah, man.
Can we do that?
Great time of the year.
So before we get into, we'll go down through the games again and kind of see your thoughts. You made it to the Piedmont game last week, right?
I did.
Tell us about that.
Piedmont, Lauderdale County. It was a great game. Lauderdale County is very scrappy. They had knocked Piedmont out of the playoffs last year in that same
Forgot
round
about
two.
that. Yeah.
But it was a game that went kind of like you thought it would. Lauderdale County was a ball control. Did a good job in the first half of keeping the ball away from Piedmont and their explosive playmakers. And Piedmont led 7-6 at halftime. And then the second half, Piedmont had a couple of big plays in the passing game and wound up winning the game 21-6. But two really good teams there, and Lauderdale County I thought put up a really good fight. Piedmont did what they were supposed to do to win the game in advance.
What do you think about the matchup coming up with Piedmont and
Oh, man.
the 5 Red Devils?
Jeff, you can't.
Yeah.
jump
I mean,
into
come
that.
on.
Jeff's
We
gonna
got-
jump in right there.
Well, you
can't,
got
no.
to. You
No.
did the segue, son.
No. We got to stop at 7 and come down to it.
Oh my God.
We got to.
That's the game. But if you're going to go to the game,
The second
that's
biggest
the game.
question, I got a game I think I like a little better than that, actually. How was the concession stand?
All I got the
First time
concession
ever,
stand-
right?
Well, I got popcorn and a Diet Coke, I think it was. So I mean, it was really good, but I wasn't even hungry. You know how it is when you go to a ball game and you're not even hungry, but you're thinking, man, I'm right here beside the concession stand. I don't have to get up from my seat and go back.
Yeah.
So I got a Diet Coke and some popcorn just to have something to munch on while the game was going on.
Nothing wrong with that. Sorry. So again, thank you to all our sponsors. Trent Thrasher's watching.
What's up, Trent?
He wants to know what his coach is doing. That's what he is.
We told that joke that you told us just when they'd go to him, so he's going to look at you different when you see him next time.
Yeah, not the joke that you told us before Sunday school. After.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute Respiratory Care. Thank you guys so much. City of Rainbow City. Grass King. Have you talked to Mayor Joe Taylor lately?
Been a couple of weeks, but
He's different, man.
Joe Taylor's a great guy. We love some Joe Taylor and appreciate all that he does for sure for Rainbow City and Westbrook Christian School.
Joe's incredible.
Yep.
So let's just go both feet into this.
Yes, sir.
Not as much both feet as Jeff went. He just went straight to the game.
You got to.
Let's start at 7A football. Let's talk about Thompson Enterprise.
Right.
We kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, Thompson's doing Thompson things here as the playoffs, have progressed on. A lot of people thought because they looked at their record, they thought Thompson might be a down year for them. They had those 1-point losses, 2 1-point losses, I think, in overtime right at the very beginning of the year to two really, really good teams.
Yeah.
And they found their stride, and you get good quarterback play. Playoffs, Seaborn kid, he's done such a great job for them. Seems like we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Seems like he's been playing forever already. He's just a 10th grader.
2 more years.
But you got him. You got Fagans on the back end on the defensive side, stepping over, playing some offense and making some plays. I think Enterprise is a great story. Coach Blackman's a friend of mine, and he's done a wonderful job there, going from Spanish Fort to Enterprise. But I think this week they're going to get way too much of of the Thompson Warriors. I think Thompson advances to another state championship game.
16-point favorite is Thompson.
I think that's about right.
And Central Phoenix City and Hoover.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
two marquee programs, Hoover being the standard, I guess, from the early 2000s to probably the last 8 or 10 years as Thompson and Phoenix City have kind of dominated 7A. Phoenix City, it's hard to get a read on them this year.
Agreed.
They've had a couple of losses, I believe, to people that you're thinking, well, I thought Phoenix City would win that game, and then they come back and they get on this roll, and here we are. All the other stuff that has happened, and and the Cinderella stories that you've seen with some of the other teams that have pulled off some upsets, and it's very possible we're going to be looking at a Thompson-Phoenix City state championship game, even with the state rearranging the playoff structure in Class 7A and crossing over with different regions and North and South playing as early as the second round or the first round even. And here we have the way the brackets fell and where people finished in the region, and everybody thought this was Auburn's year because they had knocked off Phoenix City, and Thompson's a number 3 seed.
I think so.
Thompson's a number 3 seed.
Yeah.
Phoenix City's not even a region champion, and everybody played the playoffs out. And I would say it's probably pretty good odds you're going to have a Thompson Phoenix City championship game. I think Phoenix City gets this game against Hoover, but what a job Coach English and the Hoover staff has done through some difficult circumstances to start the year, and the way they pulled that team together, and Hoover one went away from being back in the state championship game. Just think speaks wonders about the job that he and his staff have done there at Hoover this year.
Yeah, Jeff and I were talking just the other day about from the show we did when all that broke at Hoover to look at them now.
Right.
Team could go one or two ways.
Right.
And Hoover kind of decided to focus on football, and
Rally the troops.
that's kind of what happened.
Yep.
Jeff knows about rallying the troops.
I try to rattle the troops. Oh, you mean rally?
Or rattle.
I do the rattle.
Either way.
Rattle the troops.
6A football get a little closer to home here. Oxford, Fort Payne.
Well, Coach Elmore and Fort Payne pulling off a nail biter last week against Homewood after having that 24-23 win over Pell City. Just Fort Payne, they may be that team of destiny. Every year you find somebody that you say they're a team of destiny. They just finding ways to win. I think their 2 games, 24-23, 35-32.
It's right there.
Both of them coming right down to the wire. It's just a great job. Fort Payne being the region champion for this region here that's got several of our local teams in it. We talked about the tough playoff draw that region had crossing over. Fort Payne being a 1, Pell City being a 4, and that game being a pretty evenly matched game. Tough road to hoe for sure, but Fort Payne coming in with 2 playoff victories and going into the quarterfinals, I do think that the Cinderella story probably ends here. I think Oxford might possibly be the best team in 6A, and I think Oxford at home, that'll be a daunting task for the Wildcats to go to Oxford and get a win, but not to diminish what has been a great season for Fort Payne for sure.
Sam Adams.
Love Coach Adams.
Man,
He's top notch. He's one of the best in the state for sure.
He's got a running back. This kid's scoring over 20 touchdowns. I mean, so they got a
their
ground
quarterback. Their quarterback quite possibly is the best one in the state. I mean, he's been picked to play in Alabama Mississippi All-Star game. I think he's been a long time commitment to Louisville. Mason Mims is he's kind of been obviously the guy that has got a lot of the focal. He's been part of the focal point. We got a lot of attention, I should say, but he's done an outstanding job leading their team, and I think he's a big time player.
Louisville's done a great job of coming in Alabama and getting some kids. Yeah. They really have.
Right.
They got C.J. May from Holland Home, the big defensive end.
Right.
They got it's a kid out of Mobile, specialty kid. I can't remember his name. And one of the Mobile schools down there is a specialty kid. It's going to Louisville as well. So it's kind of being sneaky. Coach has done a good job up there.
You got to think about it. Everybody wants to protect the borders of your home state, but how many legitimate difference-making Division I football players are in the state of Kentucky?
right.
Right. And if
Well,
Louisville,
they play basketball though.
they can,
for sure.
they can. But if Louisville's ever going to be competitive on the national level, if they're going to contend for ACC championships and hope to be in the college football playoff, then they've got to expand that recruiting territory and hit Georgia and Alabama and Florida and Louisiana and maybe on into Texas. There's just not enough Division I talent in Kentucky. No, there's not enough Division I talent in Kentucky for them to be
But
a
if you
big
want
time player.
bourbon and horses in basketball, Kentucky's your
sure.
state.
You darn
How you
right.
like grass?
That's right.
A little bluegrass?
That's right. There's a lot of good things in Kentucky. A lot
That was a shout out
a lot
to
of great things in Kentucky.
Glenn Williams.
Yep.
Little bluegrass.
A lot of great things in Kentucky. Just not enough football players in Kentucky to win a national championship.
Agreed.
Arnie Wilson, he's talking about your boy.
Arnie Williams. You know,
Oh, he's in Alabama.
he is. He's playing at Westminster.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
I
up
think
in-
so.
yeah.
Something like that.
Man, he's it's the district superintendent for our church is his kids are basketball players. They're from Kentucky, but
I
they
got
now live here and go to Westminster, and they're shooting. He posted a video of his kid playing ball the other
Doing
day.
it.
Yeah, he was good.
Okay.
How about Parker Muscle Shoals?
Wow, Parker. I think I spoke in here last week about the friend of mine that had walked in and was doing Letterman's jackets up there and talked about the Denver Division I looking athletes that they had, and then you got Muscle Shoals, who has very quietly had a great season. Muscle Shoals is always a contender. They're always a second, third round team. Early in the year they had a tough loss to Gaston City, and I think a lot of people wrote Muscle Shoals off. But the win they had last week might have been one of the most impressive wins in the state against Clay Chalkville.
Do not disagree.
The defending 6A state champions. So this one's got me interested a little bit, just because I think you got a really sound, fundamental, don't beat themselves type team in Muscle Shoals, and then you got an extremely talented. Some people say maybe even the most talented roster in the state of Alabama, any classification, in Parker. So. This is one of those that could go either way. I'm going to go with Muscle Shoals in an upset.
Oh, okay. Parker's a 10-point favorite.
Yeah, and it'd be an upset now. My upset special last week, I looked like a fool. We get on down into 5A.
We'll talk about that.
We'll say that one in a minute.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
I went with a 41-point underdog, and I think they got beat by about 50.
Well, you ain't scared.
Yeah,
Coach ain't scared.
That was a bad.
You'll
pick.
throw a reverse in a minute, right? You ain't scared.
That was a bad pick, but I'm gonna go on a limb right here. I'm gonna go with Muscle Shoals in an upset.
Hey, we're gonna be up there tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're going to Muscle Shoals tomorrow.
Cypress Country Club.
Yeah, playing golf.
Where are they?
Cypress.
Is the game at Muscle Shoals?
No, it's in
Parker.
Parker. It's in
Okay.
Parker. Yeah.
That makes it a double upset then if they can go on the road and knock off Parker.
For sure.
Yeah.
But how when you look at a point spreads, and again, we're not going to get too much in the high school point spreads, but on the road and you get 10 points. That's I think that speaks to your team.
The old rule of thumb, I think, in college and pros is the home field's worth 3 points.
Three and a half,
I would say in high school it's probably worth 7.
Really?
That's just my opinion.
Especially later on in the
playoffs, and the other thing about high school that people say, that don't make a difference, but I think it does. Is do they have turf? Do they have grass? We finally are getting into football weather. There's a nip in the air today that feels like football.
Yeah.
As I come into the studio this morning, it was windy outside, low 50s. You're thinking about tomorrow night, it being in the 40s, the wind blowing. It's going to feel like high school football. And so the climate and then the conditions at the place, is it turf, is it grass, if it's been raining, there's all kind of different things that can factor into it. So I think the home field is worth more like 7 points in high school.
Muscle Shoals only lost to Jasper and then Gaston City the first, and they were on the road there. But then they've come back and gone to Decatur, to Coleman, to Jasper or Hartsville,
and won some road games.
Right. So they're winning, but. That's going to be
Isn't that
tough.
the sign of a well-coached team?
Yeah.
On the road and winning?
Yeah, Coach Baisden has been there for quite a while, and he's got a reputation as being one of the best in the state as well. And, I know he'll have his team ready to play, and I think Parker, again, Parker's that team that everybody, I think, at the beginning of the year said, who's the team to beat in 6A, and a lot of people went with the defending champs, Clay Chalkville. But
rightfully so.
There's a lot of buzz in our coaching circle, our coaching fraternity, thinking that Parker quite possibly could be the best team in the state.
You close your eyes and pick at it. Just pick a group. They got athletes there.
Yeah. Yep.
Regardless of what it is.
And they've got a great system, got a great scheme. I think, was it Parker? Now I'm not going to speak out of turn. I'm trying to think of someone that Parker played early on in the year, and maybe it was Ramsey. Parker Ramsey's kind of big rivalry. Ramsey being 5A and Parker 6A, and Ramsey being the defending 5A runner-up. And I won't say Parker dismantled them early in the year. I may be wrong on that.
They got everyone's attention.
But
yeah, it was 41 to 12. Yeah,
41 to 12, Parker over Ramsey early in the year, and that kind of solidified everybody's preseason notion that Parker was legit.
Now let's go to Pike Road, Hueytown.
Hey, 2 games that I missed last week. Pike Road had a nice win, and then Hueytown was able to hold off Spanish Fort, I believe it was. Is that right? And Pike Road beat St. Paul's.
And you said though that it wouldn't surprise you if Pike got the victory.
It wouldn't. I think they might have went with the home team in those games, but Pike. I think a lot of people would have thought this would be a St. Paul Spanish Fort matchup, and
I did.
Here it is, the Pike Road Hueytown matchup, and either one of those teams that makes the semifinals is going to be a big deal for them because I think a lot of people had considered 6A South just to be the 3S teams from down.
That's exactly right.
It was supposed to be St. Paul, Saraland, Spanish Fort, and then just who else pick your fourth team. So for both Pike Road and Hueytown to pull off those upsets last week and win those games and be sitting here in a quarterfinal matchup knowing that one of them is going to advance to semifinals. Great season for Coach Shook and for Coach Patterson at Hueytown.
Hey, Jeff, you got the best videographer in the business watching right now.
You talking about Brick Boy? Brick Boy. What's
We
up,
love
buddy?
that guy, man. He's so, you know Brick Boy. You know his work. If you may not realize you do, but you do.
Okay.
He's very, very good.
Yeah, y'all, that's what gets me is I'm in these shows sometimes and y'all got something that's going on and it's like an inside secret, an inside joke.
It's really not.
And then y'all get it and I don't have a clue what you're
It's
talking
really
about.
not.
So
Just
Brick Boy
nod and
TV.
go with it.
I'm just go. I'm not. Am I on video? Can people see
Yeah,
me?
oh, yeah.
So if I nod, it's like I know what
Absolutely
you're
right.
talking
You know
about.
exactly right.
I got you.
Do your lips like this.
It's let's go to the last game in 6A. You already brought up one of the S's, Saraland Spain Park.
Yeah, man, this one's going to be fun for the mere fact it's the team you expect to be there.
Sure.
Saraland with Lacey, the quarterback is going to Texas,
Yeah.
and
God, he can
all,
spin the ball.
all the other, and then you got the great story of Spain Park. I think I mentioned last week in here, Coach Fahakis, and the way that they handle situations there, and how he's just always been a no-nonsense type guy, never making excuses. And Spain Park always kind of being in the background of Hoover, and beating Hoover this year early in the season for like the third time in the history of the school.
We were pretty excited about that one, to be honest.
But sitting here, both these teams, is Saraland still undefeated? Have they been beat this
I
year?
don't think they've lost.
I was looking at the
Yeah.
record.
Spain Park's 12-0, I believe.
They are.
Two teams that have run the table to this point.
How close is Spain Park and Hoover, mileage-wise? I mean,
They're
That's
both
got-
in the city of Hoover.
yeah. I mean, that's got to be. I'm
It's
talking.
it's two large schools that are part of the Hoover city system.
Yeah, and they're both still playing.
Yeah, and that was the Hoover split when Spain Park came about, kind of like the Bob Jones split when James Clemens came about. Just to give you an idea of how many people live in those areas, how concentrated it is that you can have two 7As in the Huntsville area and now a 7A and a 6A in Hoover. That both teams are still in the playoffs, Hoover in the semis, and Spain Park playing this week for a chance to get into the semis. Where is that game played?
Saraland.
At? It's at Saraland. Coach Kelly, he quite possibly has a couple of the best players in the state, and
I keep going back to he could still have Ryan Williams.
yeah, Ryan Williams could still be there,
Jeez.
but Saraland has had a couple of close calls this year. If you go back and look at their games, there have been a couple times that and I think Lacey, the quarterback, I think he had a spell there in the middle, maybe where he missed a couple 3 games. I can't remember
High ankle
exactly.
sprain.
I can't remember what the injury
Yeah.
was, but I just remember a backup quarterback had led them to a couple of victories. But they had a couple of closer calls somewhere in the season. Have you got their schedule pulled up?
Yeah, Jeff, you got it.
I did.
Saraland, I can't remember exactly who it was that really tested them early to middle part of the year that kind of gave everybody a little bit of an inkling that they might not, be as dominant as we all thought they were. But
Yeah.
Jeff's pulled that up. It was funny. I was watching or listening to a regional sports show, college sports show. They were talking about who Ryan Williams reminds them of,
right,
and very prominent person said Ryan Williams. I mean, he's his own kind of special dude.
well, I think as an Alabama fan, you see him wearing jersey number 2. The first person that comes to mind is David
Dave
Palmer.
Palmer.
the Deuce.
What a great catch!
The Deuce was, but they're different players. That's what I tried to tell
Yeah.
folks. I was about the same age as David Palmer, so I got to remember his things that he did. And if you remember David Palmer, he was just so shifty and elusive, turn, spin, cutting back, and those types of
Yeah.
things. And Ryan Williams got those characteristics too, but Ryan Williams is just all out fast. David Palmer was more quick and elusive than people thought, than he was fast. Ryan Williams can fly.
But let me put this out there, and your opinion on it, Coach. You've coached a lot of great athletes. You've coached really good wide receivers that wasn't necessarily great athletes.
Right.
This dude runs good routes.
He does.
Yeah.
He's a technician.
He is. He's a technician, and he's not a big body, you know. But heck, I tell a lot of people he's not a big body because he's 17. He may not have his growth spurt yet. A lot of times when we look at 17-year-olds walking the hallways at Westbrook and they're not shaving or something, you think he's going to say, Ryan Williams, he could be 6'2" when he leaves Alabama. He may not have hit his growth spurt yet.
It was Jackson. That was a 35-27 contest, and then St. Paul's Episcopal was 19-14.
Yeah, and Jackson, you know, Jackson's still around, and they quite possibly could be the team to beat from 4A South. And so don't let that Jackson 2 classes up playing Saraland being a 1-score game necessarily taint you on Saraland, because Jackson is a fine program that very well could be the 4A champion this year.
I think Tallahassee is going to find out.
Well, you know, Tallahassee's
We'll
had
get to that.
a good run, but I think Spain Park has
JT got to be mad at you.
I'll say this: I don't know what your line is. It's probably 7 to 10, 16. I'm not going to go on the limb and predict a Spain Park upset, since the game is at Saraland and they do have that level of talent, and they've played in the last couple state championship games in Class 6A. But don't be surprised if this is a really, really close ball game. I'll still pick Saraland just because they're the home team. But
and Kevin Moore's watching; he's writing everything down.
Oh yeah, he
tell
is.
Kevin don't
For
copy
sure.
my picks.
He will. That's why I showed you
He
5:30.
needs to already have his turned in.
Get your own. Post them, Kevin. 5A football, a little Catholic and Central Clay.
Oh man.
Hey, this is one of those that this is your head and your heart. Heart wise, I want to go Central Clay.
It's at Catholic.
And it's at Catholic. I'm a Danny Horn believer.
Absolutely.
I've watched Coach Horn win for years. A lot of times with talent, don't get me wrong, but I've watched him win a lot of times when you think he didn't have the most talented team, but he gets the most out of his players. So my heart says, let's go with Clay Central in an upset. But my head, when I'm just looking at the two teams on paper, on the field, whatever how you want to look at them, I think Coach Horn would even tell you they're underdogs. Clay Central's the underdogs in this game, and he would probably sandbag and tell you that they don't really have a chance. And
Can't believe we're this far in the playoffs.
You probably get some good Coach Rob
goodness.
talk right there from him. You know about we're just glad to still be playing, and you know
Difference is Coach Horn's a Republican.
well, I'm not getting into politics. You didn't bring me in for this. We're just supposed to be talking about ball games.
Sorry,
Coach was not going to go on that one.
he wasn't going to go.
I'm not falling for that.
Hey, you want to read that comment by Kevin?
He's smart. Oh my gosh, let me get over here.
Coach been in the game a long
Yeah,
time.
I love it. He's quick too.
He says, Coach beat me on the picks last week by 2 games. I'm here to take my beating.
And you're going to get just that. Coach said he needs to see your picks before the show. Right? Stop copying him, Kevin.
Kevin, by the time I got to cookout yesterday, you were walking out. You were still there. That's a long time, brother.
That man spent 4 hours at cookout eating yesterday.
I mean,
he tried
he
everything.
came out with a bag too. I don't know what he was doing.
I'm going back and get another one of those cheddar bites.
That's what it was. All right, let's move on. I said Catholic and Jeff. Who you like this game? We don't want to ask you very much. Catholic.
I don't. I have no clue, so I'm gonna go with whatever Coach.
When he gets down to Central Alabama, I'm out.
I
I'm
really want to see Central Clay pull it off. I really do. I consider Coach Horn a friend, but I like Coach Johnson as well at Catholic. He's also done a remarkable job. If you look at his record as a head coach, I think they've won like 46 in a row, regular season games or something asinine that they've won in a row. But they got the championship last year. They beat my alma mater in the 4A championship game last year.
That was a good game.
And but they've been there on the cusp several other times. Moving up a class to 5A doesn't seem to have bothered them at all. And my heart says Clay Central, but my head says Catholic. What's the line on that one?
10.
Catholic's favored by 10. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, again,
Jerry, who you going with?
home team. I'm going with the Catholics.
I figured.
He's got his Notre Dame hat on.
Go Irish.
Are they considered the good Catholics or the bad Catholics?
The only bad Catholics is Boston College.
Oh.
That's the evil Catholics.
Oh, I didn't know.
Just saying. Interesting. I don't know about this game right here, Coach. Just staying in 5A, of course. Leeds and Corner.
Yeah. I took one on the chin. I guess it was last week, thinking that Boaz would beat Corner.
They had a great season.
Been very impressed with what Boaz had done.
Agreed.
And kind of, I guess I've been on that wagon. Well, whose Corner really played?
Sure.
When you look at the regions and thinking that the region top to bottom wasn't that strong, but Corner has impressed. and you know what? I think they're 11-1. Is that right?
I think that's
early
right.
season
Yep.
loss to somebody that was a really good team. Maybe Briarwood. I think Briarwood might have beat Cornerman in the middle of the year.
Briarwood Christian 31
Yeah, I was,
6.
I was trying to do my
That's right.
homework coming in here
That's
because
right.
I didn't want to miss on Corner again. But
Go get in
Leeds, Coach Hood at Leeds is one of my buddies,
Yeah.
and Leeds, we all know what kind of talent they have there at Leeds, and you know, Coach Hood's another good sandbagger on just glad to be here, and here they are in the quarterfinals. I think this game is at Leeds. Am I correct?
It is.
And you know, the one side, if you've never played at
Correct.
Leeds before and everything, and if you're that visiting team and you're over on that other sideline, it's like a us versus the world
It is crazy.
type deal. But I'm gonna go on a limb here again, going against what I may be hoping for.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Corner and upset. As I went
What's up,
back,
Scott?
as I went back and I watched or looked at the two teams' seasons and
Yeah.
progressions, and
Corner.
I'm gonna go with Corner and an upset. Now, what does the line on this game?
13.
Leeds is a
favorite.
13-point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
This would be an upset, but
You picking some up?
So how many points are the Corner's averaging over 30, 31 points a
Both
game?
great
So about
offense,
the
yeah.
real.
Kevin Moore, coach, says, coaches you don't go against, Steve Smith and Danny Horn.
well,
Quit
I pre-
sucking up because he's beating you.
I appreciate Kevin saying that, and I would echo the Danny Horn part of it for sure.
What's up, Scott Coley?
He didn't give me no. I saw him the other night. I heard this familiar voice. I was not in Atala, nowhere near it, and I heard this Atala voice, and I knew
You knew it was him.
who it was.
You knew it was Scott.
You know, in the 5A though, right here where you're at, I mean, for you guys and for the hype and just the media, how cool would it be for a Leeds Moody matchup in
Unbelievable.
the semifinals? You know,
Here's what I know. If you're from Corner and you're going to this Leeds game, do not stop in Moody and ask directions.
Right.
Do yourself a favor. Keep on going across the bridge.
right? You got Moody and Ramsey's
That's this one.
other 5A North game.
Yeah, that's this one, and it's at Moody. So
Yeah.
both Moody and Leeds are playing at home.
They're playing at home. It's
And
better to see
Ramsey,
the lights for those stadium.
Ramsey's good.
Ramsey's got a good ball team, 5A runner-up last year. I'm going to take Moody at home. I feel like Coach Gaines knew what he had this year at Moody when he made that schedule. And they took it on the chin a couple times early on, if you remember.
They did.
I watched the Gainesville game. That game was a televised game.
Yeah.
And if you remember, Gainesville got a field goal, I think, right before halftime to go up 3-0. It was nothing game.
Great team.
And
though.
Moody went toe to toe with them. The game wound up being like 31-0. Second half, it
7-0.
got away from them. But
Gainesville,
and then Moody lost another one. I think week 2. Who did they play second week?
Oxford.
They come out. Oxford beat them. A 6A quarterfinalist right now. That's having a great year. But I think that Coach Gaines was very wise in his scheduling because I honestly believe they played those games early in the year to be ready for this moment this week.
Isn't that
And
what that's what you do,
So
though, right?
you play
That's the-
Gainesville and you play Oxford.
Sure.
What better preparation do you have to be ready for the defending 5A runner-up Ramsey team to come to your
There was a
house?
late field goal. So I mean, they played toe to toe with Oxford.
That's right.
Well,
and if you remember, I did watch the tail end of that game. If I remember right, that game was at Oxford, and at the end, Oxford took a safety
That's
that would have
exactly
made it a
one
one-point
point, yeah.
game, but they intentionally held on the safety so that they could run the clock out,
Smart.
which was a great coaching move by Coach Adams. And so Coach Gaines had an option of taking the safety and losing by 1, or taking the penalty and doing one untimed down and trying to force a fumble. And of course, they said take the safety off the board. Let's make them snap it again. Oxford then just took a knee, and that was how the game ended. But Moody was right in that game to the very end, and I think that everything that's happened and transpired in the season for Moody was to get them ready for this point in the season, this game. And as much as it would be cool for that area of the state to see a Moody Leeds semifinal,
Good
I
Lord.
think it's going to be Moody Corner.
Well, I guess Alabama and Auburn were both already booked. That's why he didn't schedule those two with
Right.
Oxford and Gainesville.
Right.
So Viger and Wright.
Again, coaching legend on one side, and then my apologies out to anybody at the Viger Wolves that I hope they're not mad at me because I took Eufaula against them last week,
Yeah.
claiming that being the home team and Eufaula having the hometown son, Jarrell Jernigan, coaching, that Eufaula was ready to pull off a major upset, and Viger went over and beat the brakes off of them. So I should have known better.
I think
but
Viger is going to dominate this game.
Well, Viger dominated UMS early in the year.
They did.
And Coach Curtis, heck, they limped into the playoffs, I think, with a losing record. What didn't UMS enter the
I
playoffs
think
at 4 and
they're
6?
6-6.
They're 6 and 6
6
now.
and
Now,
6
they're
overall.
They were
Yeah,
4 and 6
games.
going in,
Yeah.
and they've already won two playoff games, and here they are. They'll say it's hard to beat a team twice in a year, but
Depends on the team.
Viger is extremely talented,
So good.
and so. But this will be the game. Game will be at Viger, I'm sure, since
It
they
is.
were the higher ranked team in the region. This will be one of those games that as we're watching the scores come across the ticker on AL.com or wherever you get your score updates.
Capel Media.
Y'all giving score updates across the state?
Across the
I don't know because I'm at least in the regular season I've been on the sideline. I guess I could be tuned into
could.
Capel since I'm not on the sidelines.
You're going to be
'cause we're not
contributor. We're
there.
going to have you writing an article
But-
each week.
That'd be great.
This would
that would be
not
incredible.
this would not be surprising to me if we're looking up and this game's middle of the third quarter and it's 14-7, something like that. And it may wind up 35-7.
Sure.
But don't be surprised if UMS blocks a punt, surprise onside kick, something that the crafty old veteran Coach Curtis can pull out, to be able to keep this game competitive. And so it wouldn't surprise me if I get an update in the middle of the third quarter and it's a one-score game. But I do think Viger's the more talented team. They are state championship pedigree. Have won several championships over the years at Viger. They can rival the success that UMS has had, and I think Viger prevails.
I'm with. I think that, and that's no disrespect to UMS Wright.
No, I'm complimenting them for being where they are
Yeah.
because I think if you would have told Coach Curtis before the season that, hey, you're going to be in the third round of the playoffs playing
He wouldn't have
Viger,
believed you.
no, because I think this was supposed to be a little bit of a quote down year for UMS, and obviously by being 4-6 in the regular season, they lost a non-region game to St. Michael's. They lost a non-region game to T.R. Miller. Then they were fourth place in their own region, So
But if you're just comparing rosters, Viger will stand up at anybody in the state,
Yep.
man for man.
Yep.
In my opinion.
That's right.
So now let's go to a little 4A football, Coach. We're going to
Yes, sir.
start at your beginnings.
Yep.
On the road,
Give me-
Cherokee County at Brooks.
Give me center. Give me Cherokee County. 3 touchdowns. I think this game will get out of hand. And
I think Cherokee County wins the game.
I just think they're a better team.
Brooks, a tough place to go to, though.
Yeah, what Coach Bowens has done there, being another hometown guy back home coaching his team. Remarkable job that Brooks has done. They won an exciting, I think it was a 1-point game last week versus Alexander.
It was
a
close.
one score game.
Yeah, it was back and forth.
But it was back and forth, and I know that the people in Killen, Alabama are proud to have their hometown hero back and leading them into the third round. And then I just think that story ends tonight. I think
What a
Cherokee
beautiful
County.
area. Get away from football.
Yeah.
It's beautiful up there, by the way.
Right. I think Cherokee County beats Brooks tonight handily.
I had to talk something nice about Brooks because I think Center's going to take a Coach Rob, take him to the woodshed.
Yeah.
I think take him to the woodshed. Speaking of another woodshed game, Tallahassee at Jackson.
Tallahassee has been a great story this year. I think I mentioned last week one of our coaches has got connections being from Tallahassee area, and we always get a Tallahassee update and a great job they've done this year. If I'm not mistaken, I think is it Coach Bivens' son that has moved over to Tallahassee.
That's right. That's right.
Rodney Bivens
Right.
Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He had that successful season last year at Booker T. Washington. You remember that? Booker T. come out of nowhere to go like to the third or fourth round last year.
I didn't know Booker T had a football team till
That's
last
right.
year.
But
They beat them this year.
he helped resurrect that
He
program,
did.
and then has moved over to Tallahassee, a perennial powerhouse, at least in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, I can remember. Tallahassee's had a great season. Unfortunately for Tallahassee, I think they run up to the best against the best team in Class 4A.
I don't disagree with
Jackson, we mentioned them earlier with the one-score game that they played Saraland, playing up 2 classes earlier in the year. Jackson's got a phenomenal young quarterback, phenomenal young running back. I think both of them, had offers and maybe even committed like when they're in the 9th and 10th grade, and I think they're still underclassmen.
Yeah, they're juniors, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
So I think Jackson is the best team in Class 4A.
You would take a gander on the line for this game?
Probably about 20.
33.
Okay.
So everybody else is thinking like you're thinking. Tallahassee, Jackson's very, very good, but again, hats off to Tallahassee for getting to this point.
But we've seen it happen before, Jerry.
my God.
I always remember you've seen it before when there was somebody that was just a prohibitive favorite that is supposed to just walk the dog. We mentioned Montgomery Academy. If you go back and look at Montgomery Academy's record over the last 5 years, okay, I don't think they've lost a regular season game in 4 years. 1 year when they were 3A, they jumped out on 5 like 16-0 in the first half, and 5 came back and beat them like 21-16. I think that was 2020. 2021, the Piedmont team I had, we beat Montgomery Academy in the championship game. In the semifinals, they beat Montgomery Catholic, who had 10-7, who had beat them 35-0 in the regular season.
Yeah.
Then the 22 season rolled around, and Catholic, I think, had to bump up to 4A, if I'm not mistaken. And somebody derailed them there when they were kind of the favorite. And then last year they did make it to Tuscaloosa, and they beat Cherokee County in the finals, and that's what bumped them up to 5A. But
Jackie O'Neill's son, not
Bivens.
Yeah,
Jackie O'Neill's son is the coach at Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Okay, Coach O'Neill.
But I was just told don't tell Coach I corrected him. So I will tell
No,
you.
that's fine. That is fine. This is all good because I just remembered when the Tallahassee coach was named. I remembered it being somebody that was a son of a legend. I was thinking it was Coach Bivens' son. Was he the one that was at Booker T. Washington? No, Coach Bivens' son is the coach right now at Huffman, if I'm not mistaken. They've been going through some struggles. But I want to say Coach Bivens' son was the coach at Huffman, maybe.
Let's stay on this topic just for a second, Jeff, as we're moving down the ranks. You've coached some teams who would have been highly favored, right in your tenure.
Right.
What's your mentality, or what are you trying to get your kids' mentality to think, hey, I know we're supposed to, on paper, we're supposed to win by 4 touchdowns.
Right.
How do you keep focused and just play to your standard? It's got to be tough.
Well, initially my process was to do what my coach did to me in high school, and that was
It's not legal.
Well, our coaches back in school used to make out every opponent as if we was playing the Green Bay Packers, and we had no way of cross checking them. Our whole way of cross checking our coaches back in the day was when Jimmy Smothers and the guest perks, John Allred and all those guys for the Gadsden picked the game.
I missed that.
And you saw how many times you repeat how many. Yeah. So if Coach had been telling us all week long that the linebackers at Boaz were both 6'3", 230, and then we got the paper on Friday morning or Thursday, whenever it was, and they had center picked all the way across, we got to think, well, maybe Coach is trying to pull our leg a little bit. And then you get the game, and the linebackers 5'10", 175. Well, Coach was lying to us again. But we had no way of cross-checking our coaches, so you believed everything. I started out trying to be that way too, always hyping up the other team, doing the Coach Rob, poor mouthing our team. And I found pretty quickly that the kids, a lot of times we would come in on Monday to practice and they would know more about the other team than we did because they're friends with some of their players on social media and they've shared highlights and they said, well, they got somebody at another school that said, oh, we've already played them, they're all this or they're not all that or whatever. And so then I just started taking the approach of trying to just be honest with them. And
that's refreshing.
Well, just and telling them, hey, if it was somebody that was supposedly an inferior opponent, say, look, we're better than this team. Everybody's going to tell you we're better than this team, and there might be some truth to it, but this team is going to play their butts off. We got to still prepare. We got to do everything the way that we need to do to make sure that we take care of business in a game that we're supposed to win. Yeah. And that's kind of how we approach it. And then there's times that you have to tell them, hey, guys, we prohibitive underdogs right here.
Sure.
We're going to have to do this, this, and this to keep this thing close for a while and then have a chance in the fourth quarter. And I just learned that with all the ways that they can go out there and check everything now, you got to just be up front with them and be honest with them and then guard them against and try to have some stories in your pocket to give them of where people were heavy favorites and laid an egg. I go back to my coaching career at Piedmont 2010. We had won state championship in 2009, and at Hamilton coming to our place for the semifinal game on Thanksgiving Friday. Had beat Hamilton the year before in the third round of the playoffs. Had more people coming back than Hamilton had coming back, and we lost 28-24 in a game that that's one that kind of haunts you a little bit because that would have been a trip to state championship game and didn't do a very good job that year of prepping our kids to respect this opponent. Last year don't matter. Forget the fact of what the record is. Forget who's coming back. Forget the being out of school all week long. We still got to focus. We got to prepare. And I think a lot of us at Piedmont that year thought that we were a shoe-in to go back to the championship game because Leeds had been put in the South. And it didn't happen. And that was something that that taught me a valuable lesson, and have tried to use that as a story
Yeah.
when talking to future teams when you're in a position where you're a heavy favorite.
Stay in 4A, St. Michael at Fairfield.
Wow. I mean, how do you go against St. Michael right now? I mean, the
Tough.
playoff run that they've been on first 2 rounds, I think a lot of people thought they were a kind of a neat story with Phillip Rivers and his son playing quarterback. But really, are they that good? They've only been playing football X amount of years. They just got a home stadium this year to play a home game. They can't really be that good, can they? Then, whoa, they beat UMS right there in a non-region game at the end of the year. And you think, wait a second here now. That's no pushover that they've beaten. And they won the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. And Fairfield, probably another one of those situations to where St. Michael's is going to see one of those Mobile area type teams with lots of speed all over the field. It's just going to be a matter of how does a young St. Michael's program handle making a trip up to Birmingham? It is at Fairfield.
It is
right?
Fairfield.
How do they handle making that 4 or 5 hour ride on a bus to Birmingham, playing in an environment where the other team is going to have players that it may be more athletic than you are. They're going to have guys that's going to have unbelievable speed, and can you withstand that early flurry, gain your composure, and will the stuff that you do work against this team?
Yeah.
I guess got to be the first time these teams have ever played.
I would think so. Yeah.
Probably not very few common opponents, with one being in the Birmingham area, one being in the Mobile area. I don't know how many teams Fairfield sees that throws the ball 35 to 40 times a game.
Can't think of it.
I would think that the Mobile area teams that St. Michael's plays, a lot of them will probably have skilled athletes that will be very similar to Fairfield. So, but again, it's always one of those intriguing things.
Sure.
If you're those kids getting on that bus for St. Michael, what is your mindset going up to Birmingham to play somebody that nothing about?
You think this is a high scoring event? Is that what it?
It doesn't give totals.
No totals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
say
totals.
St. Michael's. That's the thing I've noticed about them. That they've won a lot of shootouts this year. They score a lot of points, but they give up a lot of points.
do.
Right.
And it's probably a contrasting style of run game versus pass game
Should
type
be.
stuff. But
Yeah, the quarterback in Fairfield's thrown 22 touchdowns and scored. Was he ran 14 or something like that? I
the
mean,
dual threat guy there
Yeah.
that he had a big game last week. And Fairfield's win last week. I can't remember exactly who it was they beat. We talked about that game, but it was kind of one that could have won.
Was it Neal? Yeah, I think that's what
W.S.
it was.
Neal?
It was a game.
W.S. Neal.
And I think I took maybe W.S. Neal because Fairfield, I didn't give them much chance making that long trip down to Murder Creek.
Yeah.
But they came out with a big victory down there, so very
I love those
impressive win.
nicknames, man. I love those nicknames.
Yeah.
Like, why do we not, when we're talking to Gaston, why don't we call it Shinbone Ridge anymore? Right, Shinbone.
It
That's
is
just what
Shinbone
it
Ridge
is.
to me.
Yeah, it should be. Here's what I know from back when we three played, the bus rides were different.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
they were.
A lot more luxury these days for these kids, right?
Yeah,
Not on the
for sure.
OGs. West Morgan, Anniston going to West Morgan.
Yeah, West Morgan, has been right there on the cusp the last couple of years. I think Cherokee County's had to beat them either in the third round or semifinals each of the last couple of years to be able to advance to the championship game.
Turn it to a rival. I mean,
And I'm going to predict a Cherokee County West Morgan game again. I think West Morgan is at home, I believe, against Anniston.
yes,
Anniston, I will say, on a given night, Anniston can beat anybody.
agreed.
And they played their best ball. I think they've won 5 in a no, I mean, I think their only loss since the middle of the year was to Jacksonville,
That's
maybe
right.
in a Week 10 matchup.
That's right.
Jacksonville was a 5A playoff team, kind of a rivalry game between Jacksonville and Anniston.
Yeah.
Very impressed with what Anniston has been able to do. Cherokee County won that region. I think they beat Anniston 14-0 early in the year in a kind of a defensive struggle.
That's right.
But Anniston, on a given night, Anniston can beat anybody. I think West Morgan, the playoff experience they've had the last couple of years, and just been knocking on the door, but
A little bit further in.
Cherokee County's kind of been the team that's been their nemesis the last two. I think they're going to. I think they beat Anniston. They set up another Cherokee County West Morgan round 3.
That's awesome.
So that's this before we jump into 3A football. Cold weather games.
Yes, sir.
Benefit a hard nosed running team or a wide open passing team.
I've always thought it benefited the running team, the team
Yeah.
that had the better ground game. The ball, those colder nights, windy nights, the ball's a little harder to grip for your quarterbacks, and get a little cold on the sideline. You hadn't had a whole lot going on. That thing feels like catching bricks if you're a receiver. I've always associated Cole with the big guys and big guys leaning on the other team's guys and power running the football. So
Yeah.
I would say if I had to pick one, I would say it would favor a power running attack.
I don't disagree with that. 3A football. Let's start down south and come up. How about
Yeah.
T.R. Miller and Houston Academy?
Houston
Should be a good one.
Listen, Houston Academy's win last week was very impressive. That one
Yes.
kind of caught me by surprise. Not that they won, but the score.
Right.
And Houston Academy's they're a team. If you go back on the historical site and look at them, they've had several 9-1, 10-0 regular seasons, and then bowed out in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But very impressive win last week that they had. I guess the prize for that win last week is you get the
Here you go.
you get the top ranked
T.R.
team.
Miller.
You get the top
Welcome.
ranked team in 3A,
Yeah.
and I think T.R. Miller is the team to beat. I'll just be honest with you. I think they're the team to beat in Class 3A this year. Not trying to put the monkey on the back.
4-point spread. A little closer than I would have thought.
Well,
Maybe.
again, because I don't think any of us have the high regard for Houston Academy that they might deserve. Like I said, last week caught my attention.
Yeah.
Not the fact that they won, but the dominant fashion that they won in last week. 31-0 or something. What was it?
Let me get back.
Again, trying to
Yeah.
try to
Coach
do-
Eric Roden is watching. Coach Eric has just started a wrestling program at Coosa, first year.
I heard they were going to start wrestling. That's
Yeah.
Football coaches love wrestling programs for sure.
This is an old offensive lineman coaching wrestling.
Got
here, so.
some guys out there that don't play basketball, keeping them in shape. A physical sport. I was part of a program. I guess the 17 years at Piedmont's the only time I've ever been around a place that had a wrestling program. Have a lot of
Yeah.
admiration for what those guys do and the work they put in. But
Did you find that game, Joe?
Houston
Yeah,
Academy last week.
Houston Academy, it was a closer game.
Well, I thought they won a big. I thought they won
It
big
was,
last week.
Who were they playing last week? It was what was it Thomasville?
Thomasville.
Yeah,
That's-
Thomasville.
Thomasville's who they beat.
It was 45-33.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2-score game
Yeah,
beating
two-score.
Thomasville. I had picked Thomasville just because at Westbrook here we played them in the baseball championships
Oh, yeah,
last
that's right.
spring.
Yeah.
And those guys all look. They had a baseball team that looked like a football team out there. I mean, just
Yeah.
big chested guys that swung the bat hard and run the bases like wild men. I thought, man, that's got to be a great football team. So I kind of going off the eye test.
They still are a good football team.
I took Tom, and I think Thomasville was like undefeated. Had lost one game this year, maybe. But Houston Academy handled them last week, so I didn't give Houston Academy the necessary respect they deserve.
They're good this week, only a 4-point
That,
underdog.
well, I'll be
At a
surprised.
very good Miller team.
I'll be surprised if that's a 4-point game.
All right, so now we have Bayside Academy at Southside
Southside.
Selma.
Southside Selma's may have the best player in 3A in the state. The receiver, the Smith kid, that's a receiver that's committed to Auburn.
Yep.
He may be the best individual player in the state.
Guy's feet. Jeez.
In Bayside, you got old Auburn quarterback, old Briarwood guy. I think it's Trotter. It's the coach down there.
Jeremiah?
No.
Is that Jeremiah?
Barrett.
Trotter.
I'm
I went linebacker.
I'm pretty sure
for
it's
the
Barrett
Philadelphia
Trotter.
Eagles.
I think it's Barrett
You're
Trotter
right.
that's the coach down
You're
there
right.
at Bayside, if I'm not mistaken. And Bayside, if you look at them this year, they've just found ways to grind out wins. And so I think you're going to have the wide open attack of Southside Selma, and Bayside's not going to have anybody that can shut this guy down by himself.
I agree.
He's too good. But Bayside, it's going to be a ball control, try to hold the ball and frustrate you. I'm gonna take Bayside. Maybe I don't know what the line is, but maybe
Nine.
a small upset.
9.
Is Bayside favored or Southside Selma?
Southside's favorite.
I'm gonna take Bayside in a mild upset
Couple
right here.
upsets. Look at him. Look at that ball coach, Jeff.
Take notes.
You can't
Kevin Moore.
can't always just pick the favorites.
Exactly.
There's always going to be that team that's going to make a run.
We got
Blake
something-
Matthews says
exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
All right, how about Mars Hill at home against Winfield?
Mars Hill.
4
Winfield.
point.
Winfield's 12-0, I think, again this year.
They're physical, man.
Is Winfield undefeated?
They're 11-0.
11-1. They lost one early in the year to somebody. I can't remember who it was, but I got a lot of respect for Coach McKinney. Played them several times. Mars Hill, dominated corners who beat them.
Yeah.
5A,
Yeah,
5A quarterfinals.
There you go.
It's funny when you look at these teams, you look at their record, and they got one loss, and you say who they lost, and it's another team, maybe in a different class, that's
Right.
still in.
Yeah.
You know, I would be interested to see what the combined records of the teams that's remaining are, and the losses. How many of them are to teams that are still remaining somewhere? Because you got a lot of the same people beating each other. Winfield, they, you know, we jokingly, I playing off with you Notre Dame. I say Gordo is kind of your Notre Dame of high school football. Every year they're in the top 3 or 4 in names of consideration. Winfield is your Texas A&M. Always the team that flashes that they could beat anybody on a given night, and then sometimes might have a letdown. I don't know that it necessarily be a letdown. I think Mars Hill's probably the favorite in this game.
They are.
But
Oh,
I
you mean the
think
Texas A&M team that's leading the SEC right now?
Right.
that
okay.
they're leading the SEC right now. But let's see what they're
4 point.
doing.
Marshall's 4-point favorite.
Let's see where Texas A&M is at the end of the year.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, they got Auburn this week, and they close with Texas, right?
right. They went
This Auburn game could be interesting, though.
Well, just watch Texas A&M. There's a pattern to Texas A&M's seasons. There'll always be one or two that, you know, they didn't show up this year against Notre Dame.
Is that what happened, or did Notre Dame just go down
Here we
there
go.
and just dominate?
You always got to poke him.
Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Gordo and Winfield's already played this year, so it's a similar story. But I think Mars Hill.
We call it Marshall Bible College.
Yeah,
That's what we always call it.
Well, their only loss was to Scottsboro.
At the end of the game, week 10, and
Yeah.
if you look at their schedule, look at some of their impressive non-region wins early in the year. Didn't they beat Russellville early in the year?
Oh, yes.
Not the same Russellville they used to be. Right?
No, they're not the teams that played in those 5A championship games
Yeah.
4 out of 5 years, but still going on the road to Russellville. You know, Marshall's going to be one of those schools that's probably a 1A, 2A enrollment school, but because of the 1.35 multiplier, and then because of the fact that they won championships at both the 1A and 2A level, competitive balance has bumped them up. They've been successful enough over the last few years in 3A that they haven't went back down. And, you know, and Mars Hill, I think, if nothing else, the home field advantage right here.
Sure.
I'll take Mars Hill.
Side note about Russellville, right? We've talked about this many years ago. Russellville is the home cook. I know you love concession stands, right?
Okay.
It's the invention of the deep fried Oreo cookie.
Is that right?
There's a plaque there. What happened was they were making funnel cakes. Somebody reached over to get something, knocked the Oreos in the batter. They fried them up, and that is the invention of deep fried Oreo cookies, Russellville, Alabama concession.
There you go.
I just like to give credit where credit's due. Just saying.
Good job, buddy.
Just saying.
I don't know that I believe that. It's a great story, though.
If there's a
No,
plaque,
it's a plaque. It has to be true.
It's got to be true.
All you got to do is go to any trophy shop and they'll make you a
I'm
plaque.
saying it's there.
You can do that.
But
I'm saying it's at the concession. That's what
you
it
said
says.
you said it with confidence, so I'm gonna say I believe
Well,
you.
I read it with confidence when I was there. I mean, you know, that's all I got to go by. You know, as Christians, Coach, I think we need to, you know, take them at their word, right? If it says it, who am I to say they're lying? Just saying. I know they sell a lot of them. That's all I know. They sell a lot of them. So there's a little game coming up, Piedmont Fife.
Yeah,
You know anything about that rivalry at all?
hadn't heard nothing about that one.
I guess.
Nothing about it.
Guess it's going to be a good. Well, you want to take a guess of what you think the line would be?
Careful.
I would say 5 would probably be a 3-point favorite.
7.
7-point favorite.
Yeah, at Piedmont.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know the algorithm that these games are put into.
I'm not sure there is one.
Yeah.
No, the guy that runs it. Yeah, there probably is.
Yeah.
High level.
Yeah, you know, this is a classic matchup. This is a game that I think a lot of people anticipated happening.
Hoped for.
And you know, it's two great programs. You got teams that's combined for 12 championships in the last 15 years between the two of them.
Hadn't played since 2020,
How
right?
about that?
And,
Something like that.
And you know, I coached against 5 3 different times and didn't win any of them. They beat us in 2020 playoffs in the semifinals at their place, and then my first 2 years at Piedmont, we had dropped to 2A, and we were in the same region with Fife
That's a
and
tough
Ider and Sand Rock and
Yeah.
some people up on the mountain. So a great game, one that a lot of people have been pointing to. I know when the brackets come out, people say, well, you know, if this happens and this happens, you start looking ahead, saying potential matchups could happen, and then you start looking, well, what's got to happen to make it be at your place or their place, or
Sure.
you know, both these teams are region champions, both of them, you know, going to be. I think this year it just fell where they both were at home the first 2 rounds, and both are number 1 seeds, so you can't use any of that. I think it just happened. Piedmont might have been on top. If it's top of the bracket,
top
they're
of
on,
it, yeah.
they must have been the team on the top, and they get that game at Piedmont. Definitely, I think these two teams, home and away, I don't know are going to matter as much as it does for some other people that might be first-time participants in the quarterfinals and haven't never been in that situation. Both of these teams have played many times at home or on the road in big games in the third, fourth round. I think it comes down to two things, but it's going to be odd. I'm sound like I contradict myself a little bit. Obviously, Piedmont with the big play capability.
Sure.
Okay. And Fife with the grinded out capability. Fife known for grinding it out and just beating you in a submission, playing great defense. I think Piedmont's defense is very underrated. Their defense is extremely fast. Now, them being extremely fast, I don't know that necessarily plays well against Fife's mentality because
Correct.
they are extremely fast, but they're not extremely big. You know, I made note that there's times you look at Piedmont's defense on the field, and the highest jersey number you see is 42. So it's all skill type guys,
Sure.
and they fly the football. They get to the football. It's like there's 15 of them out there. But can that speed on defense that they have stand up to the physical nature that you know Fife's going to play with? Now, don't be confused. In Gibson, Fife's got somebody. He could be the fastest guy on the field.
He is
So
unreal good.
so they've got speed that they don't get credit for. They can hurt you inside. They can hurt you outside. The conflict and stuff about this game that I think will be interesting to watch is over the years, Coach Benefield in matchups where people kind of consider it a toss-up. Don't be surprised if you see his quarterback go 4 for 5 with 3 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
They don't throw the ball a lot.
But he's not scared to throw the ball.
But he's not scared to throw the ball. He's got a kid this time, I think, that throws it maybe a little better than the people they've had in the past. They haven't had to throw it a lot in the past. But when you pound people the way that they do, and you have to get those safeties up there to get involved in the run game, then that tight end slides out on one of those corner routes, and you look up and he's behind everybody by 20 yards.
Sure.
But I think Fife throws the ball a lot better than people give him credit for. Gibson may be as fast as anybody that's on the field tomorrow night for either team.
I agree.
I think Piedmont has unbelievable team speed on the defensive side. They're just not very big. Piedmont has offensive weapons, I think, that can give Fife some trouble. I think they got, if they protect the quarterback enough to let those routes develop down the field, then I think Piedmont's got some weapons that can hurt Fife. But don't undersell Fife's ability to throw the ball tomorrow night when they have to. Don't undersell Piedmont's ability to run the ball.
Since Fife's loss from Coosa, the last 6 games, they put up 309 points. These boys they put on some points. These guys are scoring. And like you said, their defense is stingy. One game since that Coosa game, they gave up 30, but they put on 66.
Yeah.
That was in the playoffs.
It looks a lot closer than it was, really,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But they're tough.
There's nobody in the state, I think, that can get their kids riled up after a loss and make them feel like that they're just the dogs of the world than Paul Benefield. Again, that I say that complimentary. Some people, if they don't know how I mean it, they say, "Well, boy, he's being critical."
No.
Paul Benefield can take a loss, and he can make a locker room of guys feel like that they're throwing every bit of tradition you've ever had in this place away. That all these people built this for all these years, and y'all go out there and play like that. And he'll have those guys want to come back and practice at midnight.
Right.
He does a great job.
And they would, those dudes.
100%.
He does a great job, and like I said, I'd be remiss if I didn't send a shout out to Coach Miller, the job he's done at Piedmont this year. He's
Awesome.
He's done an outstanding job. They're sitting there 12-0. One of the best seasons in school history, and they've got some guys that just love the game. The thing I think that a neutral football observer would get from going to this game and watching it is you're going to see 2 schools, 2 groups of players, 2 communities that just love high school football. There's a lot of places you go, and high school football is secondary maybe to Alabama or Auburn or Jack State, or there's places you go that may even like professional sports. I don't think in the towns of Piedmont and Fife, I don't think anybody ranks above the Red Devils and the Bulldogs.
I concur.
I think those communities If you told them you couldn't have but one level of football, what do you want? They would ditch the pros. They would ditch the college. They
Yeah.
say, give us Friday night football
I bet you
in
might.
Fife
Yeah,
and in
sure.
Piedmont. And so people that go to that game, and there'll be a lot of people from the Northeast Alabama part that go to that game that's just wanting to go to a good ball game.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're going to find there is you're going to find two communities that are absolutely in love with and on fire for their teams, and they support those schools religiously, and they just that environment will be something to be cool to be a part of.
Well, you're going to be a part of it. I'm
No.
sure you're going to be there.
What?
I will not be at a game tomorrow night, so
What?
no, I already had some plans. So
What?
I'll be
But before
I'll be a National Federation flipper. I'll be going back and forth between games.
He'll have an earpiece in his
Yeah,
ear.
so before we get your pick, we got to hold you to a pick to this game. It's a funny story. You talk about what high school football means in these small communities. Interview with, after the Buffalo Bill game this past week when they played Kansas City, Amari Cooper, Alabama great. He said, God, what is he, 8, 9, 10 years in the league
About
now?
10,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's been a while. He said the atmosphere in Buffalo took him back to his high school days as far
Really?
so NFL played the pinnacle of the thing, and he said this game is the most since high school as far as how the fans interacted and that kind of stuff. So
awesome.
that just puts an exclamation point on your
Yeah.
high school football matters.
It does.
These NFL players are remembering high school days.
Yeah.
That's pretty special. Coach,
Right.
who's your pick in this game?
I'm gonna pick Piedmont.
There was no question, but
But like I said, there's no question who I'm gonna pick.
we'll get you in this one here, Jeff.
I'm Piedmont.
Okay.
Yeah.
I too am picking Piedmont. Here's my rationale. Is it good? Probably not, because it's me talking, right? Nothing logical about what I say. But for both the losses by Fife this year has been against two very good teams, both on the road.
Right.
At Pisgah, at Coosa. I just think Piedmont's playing incredible, and I think that another road game for Fife and a unbelievably good football team. Piedmont is different than Pisgah. They're different than Coosa. What they
Right.
do is different.
Right.
Sure.
But I still think somehow, some way, I think the Bulldogs get this one done on Field of Champions, which means nothing to it's me picking. Nobody cares about me.
Kevin, I wonder what Kevin's going to pick. Is he going to go against Coach?
He's picking whatever this man picks.
Does he go against him on this
no,
game?
Kevin will pick 5.
He'll
He'll pick 5.
Yeah, I figured that.
Now we'll speed this up a little bit.
His buddy's in 5. Buddy.
We somehow I failed to. I skipped this one last week. One of these teams here. Is this right? Highland Home is playing at. I didn't realize that. Ayrton. It's at.
Yeah, Arrington's going to be the team I believe has been on the road for the first 2. Is that right?
I'm thinking probably.
It's in Highland Home, right?
If,
Is that right?
if Highland Home and Arrington are not in the same region, Highland Home I think probably has been home the first
First
2.
two, okay.
And that's probably the reason they got to travel.
Gotcha.
That was a
Gotcha.
different story that we had talked about. Maybe some ways that the
Yeah,
HSA
yeah.
could consider maybe redoing, giving some options. And I think I shared that idea with you.
You
but
did?
The HSA allowing the 1s and 2s in the first round to pick whether they want to be at home or on the road because of situations like this.
Sure.
Here's Highland Home, quite possibly the top team in the state in 2A.
I think they are.
In the quarterfinals, having to go on the road to Ayrton, who's a lower seed, I do believe, but maybe has already traveled once, maybe even both times in the first 2 rounds.
I'm gonna look that up while you talk about that. It's a 28-point game.
Highland Home is the better team, and they're supposed to win that game. We've already talked about what happens when you're a big, heavy favorite, but
Yeah.
I think Highland Home is on a path toward playing for the 2A state championship this time.
And
It's a neutral game for some reason.
what is that about?
I'm looking at that game where it's supposed to be at.
Well, no, I think Coach is right on top of it. I think it's because they traveled the first
And they're not in
two.
the same region, right?
Ayrton, no, they played. They were at home last week
Ayrton, where were they at round 1?
at Lochapoka.
So there you go. See, Ayrton went to Lochapoka and won. Then they were at home last week, I think, to Clark County.
They was Clark County, 27-7
That's
game.
right, 2 games. And Ayrton, this is an Ayrton team, I think, that entered at 5-5. I think they're 7-5 now.
That's right. Yeah.
And we didn't pick that game, but a guy in my Sunday school class, his grandson plays for Ayrton. So
Oh,
the last 2 weeks,
that's cool.
he's traveled to Lochapoka and
He's
then
put some-
down to Ayrton and watched his grandson play against Clark County.
First 2 weeks, Highland Home was at St. Luke's and at
They hosted.
Providence.
They hosted.
I'm sorry, yeah. They were at home against St.
Yeah.
Luke's and against Prom.
Yeah, and that's why Ayrton's getting to host this game. Ayrton's 1-1 as far as travel, and then Highland Home has been at home both times, so that's why.
And they're not in the
Ayrton's
same
hosting
region.
game.
Yeah,
right.
not in the same-
So only way you could have that where you traveled less and still host would be if it be from a team from your own region.
Correct.
So, but I think Ayrton, great Cinderella story in 2A this year, making it to the third round of the playoffs. But I definitely think that the slipper quits fitting.
How about Reeltown Cottonwood? That's a ball game.
Cottonwood.
Defense.
Cottonwood is a team that has kind of turned some heads again this year. They've had a history of being up and being down for a little while. Reeltown has just probably been the most consistent team in Class 2A in the south part of the state ever since Coach O'Neill was there, and he was there for 25 years
Long
roughly.
time, yeah.
Reeltown was your 2A runner-up, I think last year to Fife, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Was that
It
last
is,
year that
yeah.
Fife beat them in the finals in 2A? So a lot of guys coming back for Reeltown, and a really, really good program. I think Reeltown takes this game and sets up a Reeltown Highland Home matchup.
6-point favorite.
I think Reeltown wins this game. I think they win it by a couple touchdowns.
Winston County at Sulligent.
Winston County. It's crazy to say that Sulligent actually was the region champion, if I'm not mistaken. And no, they weren't the region champion, but they beat Tuscaloosa
did.
Academy. And
Double
I think
overtime.
Forced like a 3-way tie or something. So Sulligent has a great win under their belt
They do.
over Tuscaloosa Academy, but Winston County's 12-0, undefeated in the quarterfinals for the first time in a while.
Good story too.
I think Winston County takes this game. I think Sulligent had a really good night the night they beat Tuscaloosa Academy. Maybe Tuscaloosa Academy might have been a little off that night,
It happens.
but I haven't been very impressed with Sulligent as far as the rest of the season goes. And if you got anybody from Sulligent watching, they may be using that as bulletin board material. But
Sure.
That'd be
I
great.
think
Steve Smith said, "You got no way you're going to win."
Turn
this
and
game."
look at the camera
Yeah.
real quick so they get a good
I
crop
think-
of their face.
I think Winston County wins this game and goes to 13-0.
The line's a little closer than I thought it would be. 2
Wow.
points.
Who's favored?
Winston.
Are they home?
It's at Sulligent.
At Sulligent,
Yeah.
so that's really like a 9-point favorite.
Yeah, I agree.
In my high school logic.
All right, now let's go to ain't one left. Pisgah Tuscaloosa Academy.
Everybody has been looking at this game.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been the game that could decide 2A North. Two really good quarterbacks. I think both these teams throw the ball a lot and effectively.
But differently.
You saw one of them up close
Did.
and personal. I think that not really knowing a lot about Tuscaloosa Academy, just the hype leading up to their game versus Coosa, and then seeing that score and hearing how that game kind of transpired is really my knowledge of Tuscaloosa Academy. But I do know Luke Pruitt. I do know Pisgah. I do know that they've been planning for this past year and this year that we're in right now. I knew that 23-24 was kind of their timeline on when they felt like they had a chance to make a run. And in fact,
Sure.
last year they run into Fife and maybe the semifinals without their
Little
quarterback.
early,
I think
yeah.
the quarterback got hurt, and they kind of felt like that they didn't get to show what they could do. And then this year they beat Fife, in a non-region game right out the gate to kind of
Great game.
get a little bit everybody's attention there early on, and this has been a crash course. It's kind of a 3-horse race in 2A North, and everybody was just trying to figure out when those people would get together, how the bracket would fall, who would play who at what time, and here we are in the game that I think most people would tell you should determine the 2A North representative in the state championships in a couple of weeks down in Birmingham. So I'm gonna take Pisgah in this game. Just
Most everyone is. Pisgah's a favorite.
prior knowledge with them. Think the world of Coach Pruitt, of course, the family coaching tree that he comes from.
Really?
But
His
but,
family coaches?
To say that Luke Pruitt's in here with a team that's of their status right now and having a chance to play for a state championship possibly in a couple of weeks, and he's probably the least known coach in his own family.
That's fair. That's a fair.
But don't take that to mean that he's not capable, because I think
Yeah.
he's very bright. He's a great young coach. He obviously had great people around him that he's worked with and talk ball with all of his life. But I think Pisgah gets it done tonight.
Very physical.
Friday night, excuse
Very physical Pisgah team.
Yes.
I think that's a little bit of the difference. But I'm going to pick Tuscaloosa Academy, not because of the quarterback. I was more impressed with their receivers.
Really?
Their receivers, every one of them, at every level, just caught the ball with their hands.
Right.
I mean, you could tell they were coached well, and they go up and get the football with their hands. That impressed me. No disrespect to the quarterback; he could sling it. There's no question. But I think that'd be a great game to go to.
Well,
I'm not going to Tuscaloosa though.
No, but also, when you look at Josh Wright there,
Sure.
another
Sure.
family tradition as far as coaching goes, with his brother, being the head coach at Murray State, and just
Knows a thing or two about ball.
I just think it's pretty cool that those two guys, those two younger brothers, those two baby brothers, whatever you want to call it, here they have their two teams knocking heads
Heck yeah.
in the quarterfinals.
All right, let's rush through 1A football here, Coach. Elba, Georgiana, at Elba.
Well, you got the all-time leading rusher in the state at Elba. Georgiana with a huge win last week, knocking off the defending state champion Leroy, the two-time defending state champion Leroy Bears. So that obviously gives Georgiana some cred right there in my book. It's hard to go against Alvin Henderson though. If you get, a guy that's averaging 13 yards a carry, math says you give it to him about 30 times, he ought to get almost 400 yards. So I'm gonna take Elba in that game.
I agree. Auburn can't wait for him to sign.
Yeah.
Let me just say that.
Yeah.
Hackleburg at Lynn.
Lynn and Hackleburg, two teams that kind of emerged as 1A powers over the last 15, 20 years. Always were playoff teams, but made some deep runs. I'm going to take Lynn in that game.
Okay.
After Hackleburg had a big win last week, and an impressive win last week. They won big time.
Hackleburg 7-point favorite.
Is that game at Hackleburg?
At Lynn.
At Lynn, so it makes
Now, Wadley at Berry Fayette.
Wadley, hands down. I said Berry with an impressive win last week.
He went straight to
Didn't even
Berry.
hesitate.
Yeah,
Wadley.
Berry 6-0 win. Who would have thought Spring Garden and Berry last week with those two offenses would wind up 6-0? It wasn't in the rain. It wasn't in the snow. It wasn't in the mud. Great conditions, and Berry and Spring Garden just locked horns in a defensive struggle. And hated to see the season come to end for Spring Garden. Coach Ragsdale, all those guys over there, friends of mine. Great season that they had, but Berry went on the road and pulled it out.
Did.
Give them credit for that, but I think
Wadley's going to be a little much.
I think Wadley, the kid, the Wilkes kid that Wadley has, is a 10th grade running back, supposed to be really, really special.
Last game that we're going to talk about, we get out of here, Coach, and it's going to be a dandy, Maplesville at Millery.
Well, Millery is a team that has started to gain respect here in the last few years. Maplesville, though, it's hard to go against that tradition. You got I think Maplesville is also the Red Devils, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, you go into that town. Is that game at Maplesville too?
It's at Millery.
At Millery, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say Maplesville's not a place you want to go third round, fourth round of the playoffs. You go in that town, you got Devil's horns all over every sign in town and everything, and you got all those state championship year banners up on the scoreboard and going
intimidating.
It can be an intimidating thing. I still think Maplesville's the better team here, and I still will take Maplesville in this game. They had a big win over Sweetwater, and that's two of the most tradition known teams in Class 1A. But I think Maplesville will prevail in this one.
Millery is a 1-point favorite. Going to be a good one.
It's got to be some.
I like Maplesville.
It's got to be
as well.
some type of algorithm.
I like
that. I don't know that anybody on the field picked that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Coach, man, it's been a great year. Hopefully next year we're doing these shows, and it's because Westbrook's making a big run.
That's right.
I would love to be sitting here talking to you at this point, talking about our game instead of everybody else's games. That's for sure.
Heck yeah.
And I believe in our guys now. I'm put it out there for our guys that there's an expectation that we're in the playoff talks next year. I'm proud of what our guys have done. I'm proud of the opportunity that you've given me to come here every week and speak on our team, and then the last couple on the playoffs. But it is hard to talk about playoff football and not be a part of it, and that's something that we plan on changing in the near future.
All right. Love it. Well, Friday night, tomorrow night, even if you just want to go there tonight, go to KapowSports44.com, KapowSports44.com. Keep you up to date on every score, real-time updates there on the score train. Thank you, Swedes, for taking care of our website for us, KapowSports44.com. And then don't forget to visit our sponsors from being so faithful to bring this show to you guys this year. Fully Loaded. We want to thank you coming on board for today. Thank you, our friend there,
Trent Thrasher, City of Rainbow City, and Mayor Joe Taylor. Absolute respiratory care. They're building to get looking good over there
It
too.
is.
Yeah.
Trent's doing a good job.
Yeah, he
And
is.
Trent ain't lifted a hammer or nothing.
Not a
but his
chance.
name's all over
He
it.
brings lunch though, and then
does.
Choice Fab. Thank you guys so much for always supporting everything we do at Kapow.
No
Choice
doubt.
Fab.
I
They're
also
awesome.
want to echo that. I want to thank all those people for being great sponsors for us and,
The W
and
Club.
doing it right. That's great support that we have here at Westbrook, and I'm very thankful for that. And to the mayor and all these people that you mentioned on the sponsorship for being behind us, being behind our school, and supporting us. I want to thank all of them personally.
Amen.
Just got a Let's Go Warriors here to end the show.
Yes, sir.
Lauren Coates, say Let's Go Warriors.
Let's go.